When you've got a lot to do, a lot to say, a lot to see, and a lot of responsibility, then everything needs a place. Not just the food, but everything, so that you can find it. Otherwise, I found that the mind becomes a mess, the team loses trust, and nothing gets done on time, if at all. Now, I get this question a lot. How do you stay so organized? And I get it. From the outside, I probably look like I've got folders for everything, systems for everything, boxes of files labeled and stored, structured for days. You may think that I'm completely full of it. But the truth is that I do have files for everything and boxes for as many things as humanly possible. But not because I love being organized or love putting things in a specific spot. It's because I have to. When chefs ask me how to get organized, what I've learned is they're asking me specifically about micro-organization, like how to create a checklist for pre-competition, or where to store checklists so that they can find them, or how I label folders for recipe access. But that's just a sliver to me of the whole puzzle. In my program Beyond the Food, I teach an advanced framework for total organizational clarity, what I call MEs. But today, I want to share something a lot simpler. I want to share 5 habits I use every day to stay organized, think clearly, and allow me to MEs for everything. These are all things you can start today, no app, no download, no spreadsheet, or output of any cash whatsoever. So I found that organization lives on 2 levels. On the macro, these are systems for inputs, goals, inboxes, ideas, projects, and tasks. And then on the micro, naming, sorting, labeling, doing, and finding. Most chefs want the results found in the micro, but it's the macro that sets the stage for all of that to happen. And when the macro's set up properly, the micro kind of takes care of itself. So now this list is going to start with one of my favorites. First, name everything with purpose. See, I don't just like to save a file. I make sure I name it so that I can find it and use it. So every file I touch gets at least a 4-part name, a date or a number, category, subcategory, detail. Let me pick that apart a little bit. So this format, 2 numbers for a year, 2 numbers for a month, 2 numbers for a date. Then I identify a category, a subcategory, and then give as much detail as necessary, and if necessary, even more detail. To me, every file needs a numerical identification first, and that either looks like a date or a number. For most things, it's a date. This allows me to find most anything by date that I'm looking for, and it allows things to organize really nicely in the folder. To me, that needs to be defined. I choose the type and size and case weight of the onions that I bring into my kitchen. To me, it's the same level of care that's required, especially for something that impacts the operation on a much greater scale. There's always a number or a day at the beginning of my saved file name. Next is the big category, whatever that is for you. Maybe it's your operation name, maybe it's just recipe. Over time, you'll come to find what you need. I've learned that over the course of a career, the more information in a title, the easier that Creole cream cheesecake recipe from Commander's Palace, where I worked on externship in the late summer of 2000, is to find when I need it. Then I'll add a subcategory, additional detail, and then maybe even if necessary, again, more detail. So here's an example. 2000, there's 2 year numbers, 09, September 1st, Commander's Palace is my big category, externship is my next subcategory, pastry, detail, cheesecake, even more detail, Creole cream cheese, even more detail. Over years, I've come to find that there's a lot of different cheesecake recipes. In the beginning, I didn't necessarily know this, so some of this has been added over time, but fortunately, I've always had some of these components. Like I said, this is just where I'm at after 30 years of doing this and trying to find files in hard drives and hard drives worth of data. I've always had a recipe folder, so I don't feel the need to add that to my title. You might want it. I don't use it. Labeling files like this makes the entire library completely searchable by outlet, event, section, date, or purpose, or anything else you add to that title that's going to help you get there. I like to just think of making my life easier and labeling my me's. And your future self is definitely going to thank you for it. Number 2, create a home for each different type of work. So now I pick one place, whether it's Google Drive, Dropbox, a hard drive, a network drive, Microsoft OneDrive, or a file cabinet, maybe even a binder. Pick a place and commit to it. And what this leads me to is a filing system with a clear hierarchy. One place for prep lists, one place for SOPs, one place for inspiration. Things that live in multiple areas keep me scattered. I imagine it's the same for everybody else. It's just more unnecessary stuff to think about, and no one actually needs more low-value drag on attention. You may find over time that you want a digital and a physical, but start with one. So now when I'm talking about a hierarchy, you have that one location, and then inevitably there's going to be a system that follows it. So for example, if we take the prep list folder, right? There's going to be an AM, a PM, and an events folder inside of it. Inside of each one of those is probably going to be outlets. Maybe it's pool, barbecue, main house. Then inside of each one of those is probably going to be stations like grill, saute, cold side, pastry. It's almost inevitable. But I want to be able to find those things, and I want to be able to sort them properly. An old GM of mine, Michael File, once told me at Westchester that the best rule of thumb for filing is that if there's two items with a common factor in their name, then they go into a folder together. And this has served me exceptionally well over the last, 15 years. So get organized so that when you start, you're organized and you can stay organized. Take the time to do it intentionally. Number 3, build a weekly reset ritual that just takes a few minutes and saves you a ton of time. Every week, I like to do what I consider digital mise en place. Archive what's done, delete what's trash, rename what's unclear, and make sure that I'm taking some time to prep my meetings and my calendar for the week ahead. It's like cleaning down the station, except it's your leadership windshield that you're cleaning off so that you've got room to see clearly what's coming the next week. Because clarity isn't found, it's created by us. 4, share, store, and lock it up. Great, safe systems don't live on the desktop. A computer crash for a computer that's not backed up is all it really takes to encourage you to do that. And that should only take one time. I would encourage you, if you've never experienced that, to never experience it and either back up your stuff or work in a cloud. Because I think working in cloud platforms like Google Drive, Dropbox, OneDrive, Mise, Opsy, recipe software and stuff like that live in the cloud, allow you to do a lot of different things that you're not able to do otherwise. I'd also say that, with cloud devices, you can also see and access documents across devices anywhere. Because when I have time to work on something, I want to be able to access that wherever I am and not need copies. I also don't trust any one device anymore to house all of my stuff. Leverage technology for shared folders and share calendars and shared docs, and that way, it's going to make your operation a lot more fluid. It's going to make your access and your work a lot more fluid, especially if you decide to work on something at home for a little while, or, you need to check something that's, in the system. That cloud work really makes life easier if you can. Really great start to really getting work off of your plate into other people's hands to be doing what they should be doing. When things are in the cloud, people don't need to get on your computer. When things are in the cloud, people have access to those files. You're going to need to manage that, but that also means that they have access to them. They can print them themselves. They're not coming to Chef to print stuff. I think that's a really foolish bottleneck, and I know it happens more often than most people care to admit. And then once that's done, leverage the security functionality of that software, of those apps. That way you can protect your work. You've got viewer-only options. You've got editors that you can set and password protections to use that support you and make sure that your work gets only in the hands of the people that it needs to. And then I would also say, make sure to store a clean backup of everything that's in the cloud. That way you have it should you need it, should something happen. Even though it shouldn't, it still could. Keep in mind that access plus structure equals team power. And by power, I mean effectiveness. And then 5, teach what you build. If your sous chefs can't find it, it's not organized. If your system relies on you, it's not a system. If you can't find what you're looking for when you need it, it may as well not exist. And just like everything else, build the system, name it, map it, and teach it until it becomes culture. Now, I think this is a good place for me to talk about potty training. Why on earth would I do that, might you ask? Because my wife and I are currently potty training our 2-year-old daughter. And it's something that I think we all take for granted at this point in our lives because we all use a toilet multiple times a day, and it's basically just kind of an ingrained habit. But I want to reference this because we're currently in the process of teaching a lifelong habit to a human who's never experienced that before. Now, we've been at it for a few months, and most experts and a lot of people who do this say that it probably takes a good 12 to 18 months to fully solidify a good potty training habit. And that's if it all goes well. That's not to say you're not going to have relapses. Imagine what a relapse looks like, right? Like that's a pile on the floor for sure. And that's just training somebody to use a toilet. Again, something that we literally all take for granted all the time. So it's a little reminder to remember that training takes a lot more than telling people once. And my point here is to train your team to use systems you've built, because at the end of the day, expecting your management team to execute something you haven't taught them is as insane as hoping that my 2-year-old is going to use the toilet without issue. Fair? All right, so let's wrap this up for you. What I've shared with you today are some really tactical habits to get to micro-organization. And they come from a much bigger philosophy, one that I teach inside of my program, Beyond the Food. In that program, we go deep into what I consider as me's at this stage in my life. Because after 30 years in the kitchen, my understanding of me's has evolved a lot. In fact, the longer that I've been in the kitchen, the more I've come to see that everything in its place, it's for systems, leadership, email, execution. Me's is about organizing and opening our mind, putting our workplaces, life, systems, and strategies into a manageable, organized process. And that's the kind of organization that lets chefs lead a high-performing kitchen without burning out. And these habits and routines, they directly impact a chef's strategies, systems, resourcefulness, consistency, and execution. Now, if any of these 5 habits helped you unclutter part of the system, or maybe your virtual desktop, or possibly reminded you of what needs to be cleaned up, keep applying them to different areas that you think are in need of organization. And when you're ready to scale beyond your folders and your inbox, and you're looking to see a different way to organize your leadership and your culinary operation, book a call with me and let's talk. Because this is the work I do every day to support chefs like you master operations, as well as the craft of cooking. And let's get started. Now, if you found this useful, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more. And I guess one last final thought: when things aren't organized, time gets wasted, execution slows, and leadership becomes completely reactive. And I just want to encourage you to take the time to set up the structure that guides everybody else to put things where you can find them. Sleep on that, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.